Super Bowl champion Greg Jennings is here. Greg, what was your one biggest takeaway? And you can't say, I was interested in Aaron Rodgers name-dropping Teterboro, where he flies private to some nice vacation spots.
No, he talked about relationships quite a bit. And his relationship with Nathaniel Hackett, it's the reason he's a New York Jet. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because when we listened to him talk on Pat McAfee, he made a conscious effort to point out that it was absurd for everyone to believe that he got hired to lure Nathaniel Hackett was hired to lure him to become a Jet.
Jets wanted to.
It was basically what happened. It worked. He's a Jet. And that's fine because obviously their relationship goes beyond the facility and football, and that's great. But his ability to establish relationships, feel like this team, this organization, this general manager, Joe Douglas, Robert Saleh, all these individuals that played a role in him becoming a New York Jet, they want him there. They need him there. He looks like he embraces that. He feels that. He looked great today.
Mm-hmm. He was charming.
He was charming. It was like a first date, first introduction. I'm meeting the parents and I'm meeting everybody, the family members, and it's like I'm on my best behavior.
Yeah. Wearing matching polos.
Let's make sure
first date behavior.
Let's make sure it stays that way and they get some wins.
Yeah, I like that.
No, that's true. Look, folks in Denver are laughing right now the way he talked about Nate Hackett, and that's a joke. But I'll give Nate Hackett credit. Just because you were a bad offensive coach or a head coach doesn't mean you're not a good offensive coordinator. But
great at darts.
What stood out to me, I was surprised and impressed that he completely embraced the challenge of winning the Super Bowl.
Correct.
I mean, he brought it up unsolicited.
Multiple times.
Yes, multiple times. I thought, look, if he really was focused solely on winning the Super Bowl, he'd have pushed more for San Francisco. So I didn't think he wanted that heat. He wanted the heat. And he talked about it several times.
Yep.
Even in the tough AFC and AFC East. So I give him a lot of credit for that. He must know he's got some great weapons. He feels comfortable with Hackett, knows the defense is good. So I was impressed with that.
So I agree with Brew there because this is the longest playoff drought of any team in any of the four major sports. He could have set that as the goal. Get this team back in contention. Get this team. These fans deserve to be watching meaningful football in December. He said Super Bowl III trophy looks sad and lonely by itself.
Yep.
So
old and dusty.
Right. So I will give him credit for that. There were two parts of this, though, that because of our history with Aaron and what I would call half-truths, where my ears perked up. The first one was when he's asked about, hey, you said you wanted direct communication, and the Packers were like, we tried to call you, need an answer. And he's like, funny thing.
Yeah.
My phone only works with FaceTimes, and I could show you the call logs. I got no FaceTimes. Like, honestly,
serious.
He was not joking.
It felt
he
like
was
a joke, but
he was
serious.
like, listen, I have an amazing house. I'm very fortunate. The one thing that sucks is I have bad cell service. So if you want to get a hold of me, you have to FaceTime me. And I could show you the call log. There were no missed FaceTime calls. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. But then Josina Anderson, I thought did, and we played some of it there, did a really good job. She was like, hey, are you going to be here all offseason?
Yes.
And his answer, if I didn't have the prior history with him, leading you to believe one thing, but then leaving himself the wiggle room of that's not a lie.
That's good.
This jumped out to me. He's like, well, yeah, I mean, I'm going to plan to be here a lot. The guys to get to know, got to buy a house. Does tomorrow count? Actually, no, tomorrow doesn't count. But the question is, when practices are happening in May with OTAs. And I'm not saying he's not going to be there for that. What I'm saying is he certainly was implying, of course, without outright saying, of course, and therefore without outright being able to say, hey, you said you'd be here.
It was like being immunized.
That's exactly what it reminded me of. Now, again, that might be confirmation bias, and I might be being unfair here, but that to me is going to be a critical date in this relationship.
Absolutely.
Is he going to be there for those off-season activities? Now, he talked about trying to get guys together ahead of time, all that stuff. That's great. Are you doing that because you know you're not going to be there for OTAs, or are you doing that in addition to it? And I know they're optional. I know the players earned that. So I'm a little conflicted on how I feel about it. But for the Jets, If we're talking Super Bowl, they need to get on the same page as quickly as possible. And I think he was a little evasive there.
So, Greg, if you were on the Jets, are you waiting for a call from Aaron Rodgers? Like, hey, want to go to the high school and throw? Like, remember when Brady went down to Tampa Bay? There was helicopters up taking shots of Brady warming up because there's all COVID protocols and all that. But are you expecting Aaron Rodgers to reach out? Do you want to hook up? Are you calling him? How's it work?
Well, I wouldn't be necessarily expecting him to reach out because I don't think that's his deal. He's not the Tom Brady type or the Drew Brees where let's go meet out at the park and let's go throw around some footballs. That's not him. I think more importantly, I'm leaning to what Nick says. If he, in addition to getting together some of these, what did he call them?
He said some fun events or something like that.
Setting up some event, team building events. In addition to that, if he's in that building and he's available for the non-mandatory practices and programming, like that is huge. This team, I believe, will definitely have a chance to contend. If not, I question whether they'll be able to contend because it's not just about the football. It's not just about the rapport that you build. It's about all of it together collectively.
Because, Brew, tell me if you agree. Here's what I'm very confident in. Just staying AFC East. Josh Allen is going to be doing everything this offseason that the Bills are doing. I don't think he'll miss a single thing. Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi got a full-blown quarterback battle going on our hands, and I'm certain they're both going to be there for that. Hey, it's going to be missing targets a lot, but they'll both be there for it. And Tua, Tua is trying to prove himself in every aspect. So I believe all those guys are going to be together all offseason. We're now talking about them on, getting to the Super Bowl. That's what he's talking about. Right. We know what Mahomes does in the offseason. Joe Burrow probably in the next 30 days is going to get a $250 million contract. I don't think he's going to follow that up by skipping offseason stuff. Similar with Justin Herbert. I do think for the Jets to have a real chance at early season success, which is what screwed the Packers last year, was lack of early season success. He's got to do those things.
No doubt, because look, all the quarterbacks you mentioned, they're looking at Kansas City and saying, we got to beat that team. Yeah. So if you're serious about that, you are getting together in the offseason. There's no question. If you don't get together in the offseason, you're really not that serious about beating the Chiefs, in my opinion. So Greg, you're saying just him, say they do go bowling, him and the receivers, and he's at the facility meeting guys, just being friendly and developing relationships. If he does all that, but then doesn't go to OTAs and throw the football with these guys, it's kind of like, you think that'll be a negative?
Absolutely, because when you look at, Nick just said it, I said it yesterday, when you look at the reason why the Green Bay Packers struggled early and until later in the season, it was a lack of on-the-field rapport and chemistry, timing. I understand and I know what he's going to do. That was missing. You can't develop that just by going out and bowling and having a couple brews and tossing them back. No, that's great. You need both, especially when you're a new guy coming in. You want to make sure you embrace them, not have them feel like they have to embrace you, because they're all going to embrace him. They're going to they're opening every door, every arm, and they're like, come on in. They've been doing that this whole time before they even acquired him.
Ask Greg to go out to dinner and turn you down, though.
I'm not necessarily turning you down. I'm just not going to eat.
Greg does not
Greg doesn't go out to eat.
He does not
Greg
eat.
Won't go out to eat.
Porridge, seaweed, stuff like that.
Come sit in my office, eat out of Tupperware.
Is it not seaweed?
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.